A suburban city fights misinformation about migrants.
Are we going to become a sanctuary city? No, we're not having these conversations. Are we going to house them in schools? No, we're not having these conversations.
Tonight, we trace the anonymous group making the claims to a Republican Party leader. The families of hostages held by Hamas turned away at the Colorado House by the Democratic Speaker. Colorado passed a law to make Epi-Pens more affordable. So why can't families get them? And some Coloradans keeping a 150-year-old historical tradition alive get overwhelmed when their work goes viral online. That's tonight on Next. Lakewood's leaders say they are not taking in thousands of migrants from Denver, not housing them in empty Jeffco schools. But it hasn't stopped those claims from an anonymous group calling citizens to come out to an anti-migrant town hall tomorrow. A group that was anonymous until we started looking into who was spreading that misinformation.
It's really stored up a lot of frustration and anger. That is not necessary.
Lakewood Mayor Wendy Strom is talking about the misinformation campaign by an anonymous group called Concerned Citizens in Lakewood. They're claiming without evidence that Denver is sending thousands of migrants to Lakewood.
Denver was not asking us to house anyone.
That Lakewood leaders have been talking about becoming a sanctuary city. Can't find that anywhere in notes of city meetings.
That claim is untrue.
And the group says the city planned to house migrants in empty Jeffco schools.
The city has no control over those buildings.
Jeffco Schools says it's not happening. There have been no discussions with Denver about housing migrants in their schools. Denver leaders also confirmed that the city is not sending migrants to Lakewood. Yet concerned citizens in Lakewood called the community to a town hall at a middle school tomorrow. Jeffco Schools says the group did not get district approval, so they can't meet there. We filed an open records request to see who tried to reserve the space. It was Jeffco Republican Party Chairwoman Nancy Pelosi. We reached Pelosi on the phone, and she would not provide evidence of any of the claims being made by her anti-migrant group.
This kind of misinformation effort really hinders the ability for us as our elected officials to be able to do a good job meeting the needs of our community.
The GOP chair who is organizing this anti-migrant group says since they can't meet at the school, they will find another location for tomorrow night. The event's also being promoted by former Republican state legislator and former Lakewood City Councilwoman Ramey Johnson. She has said that bringing migrants into Lakewood could swing elections through voter fraud. How precisely? Today, Johnson declined to provide any evidence of her claim. She also said that she didn't know who was organizing the anti-migrant town hall that she was promoting. In Denver, the city's now turning to nonprofits and community donations to help those migrant families to keep them from becoming homeless when the city says their time in shelters is up. Our Mark Salinger reports on the first day of families being asked to leave.
For months now, the doors to this hotel have opened to let migrant families in. Today, for the first time, they were open to force them out.
Me sacaron de refugio porque se me había cumplido los meses.
Christian Reyes Torres,
Sí, muy difícil.
his wife Arelides, who is 7 months pregnant, and their 4-year-old daughter Ilaris are 3 of the more than 150 people discharged from migrant shelters today. Many are families like this one.
Porque tenemos miedo.
Me dieron una carta que tenía que salir hoy, fecha hoy 5 de febrero. La salida a las 9 de la mañana.
With nowhere else to go, they came here.
No, ya viene en camino.
In the back of a 7-Eleven parking lot across town, Christian waited for a family that had offered to help find them housing.
Ya viene.
Denver is out of money and out of space. The government can no longer house migrant families indefinitely, not even the ones with kids or kids on the way.
No, no tenemos sitio donde estar.
¿Y ahora qué pasa? ¿Sabes dónde dormirás esta noche?
No sabemos.
Más mi esposa que está embarazada y mi hija. Porque yo podía dormir en cualquier refugio por ahí que de eso por una noche donde hay muchos hombres reunidos, personas que uno no conoce, yo lo haría. Pero por ella, para ver qué hacemos. Hola, bonita.
This is the plan now.
Hola.
Holding close the few belongings they have, families like this find help from strangers.
No sabemos dónde dormiremos esta noche.
At this hour, Christian and his family are still trying to secure housing. They're hoping that they're lined up with a nonprofit to try and get a house with another family and stay there for at least another month. We're told that nearly every family that was discharged from a shelter today is now in line to get housing, whether or not they've actually moved in. That's all from the help of nonprofits and other individual families that have chipped in to help. Kyle, that's today. We still have another 2 months of people getting discharged from shelters. We're told up to 743 families.
Sounds like they might kind of trickle them out in order to connect them with resources. Because we heard for the longest time the city saying, like, we have to be able to help these people because you can't have little kids in tents in the middle of winter.
This is the exact type of family who the city and pretty much everyone is saying they can't be out on the street, especially in the middle of winter. 7 months pregnant, a 4-year-old daughter. They were in that hotel for about 2 months, but now the city says you have to go.
Mark, thank you. The Democrats who run the Colorado House turned away the families of hostages being held by Hamas today. There are some vocally anti-Israel Democrats in the House, and the Speaker said she was worried that honoring the hostages' families would cause division.
They have flown all the way from Israel to talk to us, to ask us to do whatever it is that we can do. And there are things that we can do.
We have endured for months now, since October 7th, anti-Semitic remarks and behavior in these chambers, in this building.
After the snub from the House, the hostages' families were instead honored in the state Senate, a bipartisan recognition in what was a joint session. Democratic House Speaker Julie McCluskey told us in a statement that she blocked the honor in the House because, quote, I did not have assurances that members on both sides of the aisle would rise to the occasion, and I had concerns that continuing to bring this issue into the chamber would have had long-term detrimental impacts on how we're able to work together for the people of Colorado. The House, in particular, has seen angry division over the Israel-Hamas conflict lately. Pro-Palestinian protests in the gallery stalled the first day of the session, and leadership reprimanded State Rep Elizabeth Epps of Denver and removed her from a committee assignment after her confrontation with pro-Israel colleagues during a special session in November. At one point, Epps was shouting from the House gallery alongside pro-Palestinian protesters. Well, you would think that a law to cap costs on a life-saving drug would cap costs on a life-saving drug. Yet Coloradans trying to buy epinephrine injectors, Epi-Pens, say that getting the price advertised by a new state law has been next to impossible. Here's consumer guy Steve Steger.
If my son ingested peanuts, he would go into anaphylaxis and possibly die.
Two dads.
She had an attack
in two different parts of Colorado have been trying to use a new state law to stock up on epinephrine injectors, known best by the brand name Epi-Pen. Timothy Johnson filled out the application to pay $60 for a 2-pack in Denver.
And the best they could do was the manufacturer was going to offer us a $10 discount, which brought the price from around $280 to $270.
Ken Holtkamp tried a few pharmacies near his home in the San Luis Valley.
And every one of them said no.
The January 1st law is supposed to cap the out-of-pocket cost for Epi-Pens for patients at $60, but red tape appears to be tangling it all up.
There wasn't a lot of infrastructure built around it.
Pharmacists argue they're feeling the brunt of the cost, only collecting $60 for something they paid hundreds to have in stock. Emily Zedvorny leads the state's Association of Pharmacists.
So a lot of times they're saying, I can't do that. I can't lose, hundreds of dollars to get you this prescription for $60. So there have been situations where they've said, I just can't help you, and they've turned that patient away.
The way this bill is designed is the manufacturers are supposed to reimburse the pharmacies either for the extra cost or straight up by giving them extra Epi-Pens.
Democratic State Representative Javier Mabry sponsored the original bill, and now he says he's working on a legislative fix to make sure the drug manufacturers pay.
We just haven't seen universal compliance with this law.
Zedvorny says the state needs to create a better process to ensure pharmacists don't take on the financial burden.
By putting these limits on the costs, we need to have the infrastructure support where the manufacturers are set up and ready to do it. The pharmacies are all educated, trained, and ready to do it. And that simply just did not happen with this process, with this bill.
So Teva, the drug company that manufactures the brand name Epi-Pens, sued the state last year to try to stop this law, but a judge denied an injunction that would have stopped the law. I asked the company for a comment on this story, never heard back today. There are penalties of up to $10,000 if a manufacturer refuses to reimburse a pharmacy. But again, Kyle, it seems like there isn't a good process for pharmacies to go to the manufacturers and request that reimbursement, which leaves the patients trying to get those reduced costs stuck.
Well, and it's not in the manufacturer's interest for people to know how to do it, right? I mean, sometimes you'll see that written into laws that the onus is on them to let folks know how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it seems like there wasn't a whole ton of education on the pharmacist side in this today. I have an Epi-Pen. I called my King Soopers pharmacy this afternoon just to ask, can I apply for this $60 copay for this? There was a lot of confusion. What do you mean? Oh, there's a state law. I didn't realize that. Just trying to work different things out. It may take a little while. The hope is that they can get this back online and get people the price that they're supposed to pay.
Steve, thank you very much.
Yep.
Today, Republican District Attorney John Kellner announced that he would not run for re-election, as his predecessor, DA turned talk radio host George Brockler, has now filed to run. So the district is about to be split in two. Arapahoe County is going to be one judicial district with one prosecutor. Brockler's now running to be the DA of Douglas, Elbert, and Lincoln counties. That'll be split off into a new judicial district. Brockler was the prosecutor for the unsuccessful effort to have the Aurora theater shooter sentenced to death. He got life instead. In recent years, Brockler's worked on conservative talk radio, among other things, calling for Dougco school teachers who walked out in protest to be outed by name so that parents could confront them, and recently saying that a Republican leader's drunk driving arrest was less disqualifying than shoplifting. Your latest collective effort for good for our fellow Coloradans is going to help young people on the plains escape generational poverty. Your last Word of Thanks microgiving campaign raised more than $10,000 for the nonprofit Kids at Their Best. All told, you've donated more than $12 million to make this state a better place in a variety of ways. That includes the more than 1,000 of you who now give monthly to the Word of Thanks Fund to hit every single nonprofit we talk about. If you have an idea of a nonprofit in your community that could use our help, please email me, next@9news.com.
This is the largest enforcement action that our agencies ever levied on a single facility for air pollution.
Suncor's dirty deed breaks the record previously set by Suncor. Regulators say this time they think the punishment could make an impact. And that is history in demand. A group preserving an old and obscure tradition is suddenly overwhelmed by interest. Suncor will pay a $10 million settlement for 3 years of pollution violations at the refinery in Commerce City. The state health department says this is the largest penalty they have ever levied against a single facility. It's a bit larger than the $9 million penalty for Suncor in 2020. Under this latest settlement, Suncor will pay $2 million in penalties for hundreds of dangerous gas releases over 3 years. And the state says the other $8 million will go toward required improvements at the refinery. Again, this is a company that in the last full reported year made $6.7 billion. So $10 million bucks, rounding error. But the state says that requiring the improvements is a way to guarantee positive change for neighbors.
The state is limited by law in terms of the level of penalties that we can assess toward a facility. We do see that when those dollars are targeted at specific equipment, we have found improvements.
State regulators are also adding requirements to Suncor's required monitoring program, which gets reported to the state. Suncor has to add some new monitoring equipment and report releases of even more toxic pollutants. After that snowy turned slushy weekend, Kathy Sabins here with a look ahead.
Isn't it beautiful? 6 to 12 inches of wet, heavy snow that really helped our snowpack, and we needed this water so desperately. But the sunshine today to kick off this new week was wonderful as well. Seasonal afternoon temperatures in the mid-40s today. We're actually going to go warmer ahead of another storm that we're tracking. The snow's going to start to ramp up in the high country tomorrow. Denver will stay dry until Wednesday. This system's dropping as much as 8 inches of rain in California on top of last week's big rain event. This system storm creating flooding and mudslide issues in California and is coming toward Colorado in 2 pieces of energy. Not much on the radar to show you yet, but that will be changing. The areas in red, that is a winter storm warning for the southwestern mountains Tuesday to Thursday for 2 to 3 feet of snow. The snow will start to pick up tomorrow and really get going Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Denver stays dry, as I mentioned. We've got the high clouds rolling through tonight, a few more clouds around tomorrow. Temperatures will actually trend above average in spite of the cloud cover. A mild overnight time period with temperatures down just above the freezing mark. We've got 53 tomorrow, mild on Wednesday with a chance for rain, calm Thursday, Friday, and then colder with a chance for light accumulating snow on Saturday and a high of 38.
In the last 3 weeks, we have gotten a volume that we normally get in a whole year. So it has really swamped us.
You want to taste what bread was like in 1847? I can't say that I do. But what you might call a historic bread preservation society in northern Colorado is absolutely inundated with responses after they went viral online. A family recipe that was carried by settlers on the Oregon Trail just went viral on social media. And that means a whole lot of work for one woman in Greeley.
And this is me drying about 3 trays of fresh sourdough starter. To preserve this particular sourdough and make it available so it doesn't disappear. I'm Mary Buckingham. I'm the mailbox keeper for the 1847 Oregon Trail Sourdough Preservation Society. That job is that I set up a post office box where we receive the requests. I go and pick them up and process the envelopes and get them ready to be filled. It's just a starter, and it's just about a teaspoon of ground dried sourdough starter. I'm processing these thousands of sourdough starter requests we have suddenly fallen upon us since a TikTok video on January 20th. Let's see, last week we had 1,355, not including a couple hundred small envelopes I haven't even processed yet. I had no idea, absolutely no idea. In the past, we've had huge newspaper like the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune mention us in a sourdough article, and we got a huge influx. But we're talking, 350 a week, not 1,400. In the last 3 weeks, we have gotten a volume that we normally get in a whole year. And we're only 2 people doing this. Now it's every day, 8 to 10 hours a day, no breaks. This is going on 3 weeks now. I've just had to stop everything. It's crazy. These are last week's collection. And with this stuff, I'm finding out there's all kinds of towns and whatnot I never knew existed. People who donate to us, which is the only way we can keep doing this, I have to count, and then we print up a thank you letter for them and put that in. These are the envelopes that are ready to be mailed. I would like this to calm down to a more manageable amount because I do have other things to do. Well, I hope they enjoy the experience of using sourdough. You can grow it and share it. All you have to do is follow the instructions on our website to revive it, and then you can share it endlessly.
I love that so much. If you're thinking about ordering it for them, could you just chill for a couple of weeks, maybe a month, put a reminder in your phone? The group's been running that mail program since 2000, and they estimate in that time they've sent out 65,000 sourdough starters. Back here in a moment with feedback from a conflicted couple. It's a pretty thoughtful note. Next. Joshua and Christina wrote in tonight about some of the heaviness in today's news. Here's why. My wife and I are welcoming our first child tomorrow. What the hell, man? We hope that word of thanks and reasonable people in society will continue to work hard to create a world that we want our sweet pea to live in. First off, congratulations. Second, I share your hope. Let's get to work. See you next time.